And welcome back to the Movie Mates review on the channel. I am Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, great to see you. So on today's show, we are reviewing an M. Night Shyamalan film, his latest release, and it's of course called Old. Now, I don't think we've reviewed any Shyamalan films on the channel thus far, which is surprising given that he's directed, some of the best films in the last 20 years and so some of the worst, I guess. I guess the big ones really that we enjoy is sort of the Unbreakable and Your
Mhm.
Split and those kind of ones. But today we're reviewing Old, so I'm going to pass over to Cam to explain what this film's about and the breakdown of our discussion. So off to you, man.
So this film is about, in very simple terms. I think we're going to be talking pretty much spoilers out of the gate because I think this is another one like the Tomorrow War where either you see it or you don't. Like I don't think this review is going to sway you to see it. We're more going to talk about break down the things that happen in the film. Just as a reminder, family goes on holiday, beach that turns you old, bada bing bada boom. The whole movie's in the trailer, so I mean, there's nothing much for us to spoil, to be fair. I'd say the biggest talking point about the film, or like the biggest OMG moment, which we'll get onto later, is probably the pregnancy scene, which is just fully revealed in the trailer, which I just the trailer editors just need to do better, don't they? I mean, obviously you need bums in seats, so I mean you need to show your most exciting shot, I guess. But I mean, I'm so glad I didn't watch this trailer ahead of time because it would have ruined the film for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I watched the trailer before this film came out, and it definitely does ruin a lot. So, but yeah, apologies today, folks, if I sound a bit weird. I'm not feeling the best. Got a bit of a head cold, so that's why you might hear a bit of sniffles and coughing. I'll try my best to keep it under control. But yeah, and also just before we kick off today's review, be sure to check out our 100th episode specials. We're still doing that ongoing on the channel. We just uploaded our Desert Island films, which is one of my favorites that we've done, and you can check out our Q&A or whatever and get to know us. And Would You Rather as well. But yeah, if you'd just open the floor, mate, with your thoughts, I'll chip in where I can as always.
Yeah, from memory, the first M Night Shyamalan film I saw was Unbreakable. If not that, it was The Sixth Sense. So I mean, I have a very good impression of M Night Shyamalan. I've seen probably only his well-regarded films. I have seen The Last Airbender to my knowledge, but I haven't seen any of the ones that are considered huge failures. The Village, The Happening, Lady in the Water. But because of my impression of M Night Shyamalan, I will always see his films as soon as they come out. Like I don't care how many films he makes that I don't enjoy. I think he's incredibly talented. I think it's just you know there's sometimes problems with editing or execution. But I think he's absolutely a fantastic ideas man. This one happened to come from a French comic, I believe, or a French graphic novel. But when it comes to The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, like I think he's an unmatched ideas man. I think that there are for sure some stinkers in there, but I think the sort of elevator pitch for all of his films are pretty next level. I mean, I even think I you probably don't know how The Village ends because you're like a cave person when it comes to
Living under a rock,
film
mate.
twists.
Yeah.
But with that I haven't seen it play out, but I think that's a okay twist. Maybe obvious to most people, but I think if executed well, I think if I watched The Village, I'd probably quite enjoy it.
I mean, with Shyamalan, I think you're definitely spot on in the sense that he's box office himself. It doesn't really, and that's quite rare for a director. I think the only really ones that spring to mind when I think box office directors is maybe like Christopher Nolan, in the sense that
Hmm.
you go to see his film no matter what, just because it's Shyamalan or Nolan or whatever. So, um, and also I think the fact that he gives himself little roles in his films is also quite interesting. And here he actually has this reasonably big role, which I was very
Yeah,
surprised with, in terms of as I say, luckily we're going for full spoilers, but he does kind of have a reasonably big villain presence here, which was interesting.
yeah. No, normally I'd find that kind of self-appointed cameo quite quite egotistical. I think there's an element of self-obsession in like placing yourself in a starring role. And normally I would find that, but I think M. Night Shyamalan's a good actor.
Yeah, it just goes to show the talent of the guy, really. I think he was very, very good here. I think although although his execution for the film isn't where I wanted it to be, I still think the film's premise is really exciting. And I think it's the
Hmm.
film that will draw a lot of people in. Even if the
Yeah.
twist wasn't really for me, in the sense that it's a fantastic idea, even if it isn't maybe strictly his, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I think it's a
Mhm.
fantastic concept, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I watched an interview he did with Wired, their
Yeah,
autocomplete interviews, and he said that he thinks of his films, not in a three-act structure kind of way, sort of in a three-act plus what he called a revelation, which I think is a much more accurate statement than, people say, oh, Shyamalan twist or whatever, but I mean, it's rarely a twist. When I think of a twist, I think, a normal ending to a film would be answering the main question presented by the film, and then a twist would be, answering a question that hadn't been asked.
yeah,
I'm not going to give an example because I don't want to accidentally ruin another film that people haven't signed up to be spoiled for. Uh, but instead of twists, I agree with him that it's a revelation. And here, that's the same case because you're not surprised, but it is the answer to what's going on here.
yeah.
It's not a twist because the whole time you're questioning, well, what's up with this beach, and they say this is what's up with the beach. Like, that's not a twist.
Yeah, yeah, I agree actually, and I think with this film as well, I think I mentioned this to you as soon as we left the cinema. I think the fact that it doesn't have any majorly big stars, it makes it feel a bit more grounded, a bit more gritty, which is weird given the fact that there is kind of a supernatural element to the story. Um, and I think in if I could were to critique the film in that sense, I think all the most entertaining characters are killed off way too soon. There's a lot of and there's no real solid answers given to why each character is there, really, in my opinion. I think a lot could have been done to explore other character and motivations and whatnot. I think for me as well, there's to mention the Shyamalan presence too. Throughout the film and throughout the time on the beach, you get a glimpse at people watching the family from the mountains above the beach, and I was expecting that to maybe go somewhere, and I know that is revealed to be Shyamalan in the end, but I was just expecting a bit more than your typical just your pharmaceutical company bullshit again. I fucking hate that. I really don't
Yeah.
like that. It annoys me.
We'd actually recorded a video that day where you'd asked me about The Fugitive, and I said,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we did, didn't
I
we?
just
Yeah,
really hate when the answer to a film is a conspiracy involving a pharmaceutical company. And then on the day I said that, we saw this film, and I was like, bloody hell, they've done it
yeah,
again here.
yeah.
And I was very underwhelmed. I don't know how you answer that. Obviously what was going on with the beach was, it was a supernatural occurrence, but it was being exploited by the pharmaceutical company. I mean, you know, if that was a real world thing, that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is absolutely what would
got it
happen
spot
in
on.
the real world. I fully believed it, but I just think it really set itself up for this grand reveal, and then it is disappointing. But I don't know where I would have gone with it. Usually I think people could reason their own better revelation, but I mean I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I think maybe. Do you ever feel like because this film is based on you know a screenplay of itself in essence of by the comic book, do you think that kind of limits Shyamalan in that sense, or do you think? Because I think he probably could have done something similar but a little bit different enough that he wouldn't have to go completely by the plot of the graphic novel, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I would have
Yeah, I
liked.
mean,
Yeah, go
in
ahead.
in the graphic novel, it just ends on the beach. It's never revealed what its backstory is. It's just sort of in
Okay.
discussion they say, oh, what if it's someone testing medications on us, but he ran with that. So he did make the story his own. It's just whether that's
Yeah.
to the detriment of the film.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting.
I found a lot of the moments in the film just came across as them, trying to elicit shock value. And like to be fair to them, it worked, but I was kind of just taken aback by the absurdity of it. It wasn't even in like the dialogue or anything. It was just in what you're actually seeing play out on screen. I mean, namely the accelerated pregnancy. Like I was actually like covering my mouth, like trying to stop myself
Yeah,
from laughing at it.
yeah, it was
Because I
outrageous.
mean, I just wonder whether that's the reaction they wanted. Because like they're obviously there are very weird films out there, like uh, you know for example, The Lobster, which is an absolutely absurd film, but it's fully self-aware of that. Uh, I just wonder whether Shyamalan was taking this seriously or whether this was a joke.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I kind of had the same reaction with a lot of the scenes in here. I couldn't really tell with a lot of these gruesome deaths, and there's a lot of them in here, whether he wanted us to find them funny. There's one in particular with
Mm,
like this sort of, she starts off as, a 20-something-year-old woman, who's like really into her selfies and her glam, or whatever, and then she just gets
yeah,
crushed by a calcium deficiency and whatever. Like it looks, I couldn't really tell if that was supposed to be funny or not because it was just
I think it
outrageous.
was meant to be scary.
Yeah, but I didn't really find that. I mean, I don't. I think it's gruesome, but I don't know if scary is what I personally felt from it. But I think you're right in terms of that was maybe the idea he was having for it. And I'll say another thing as well. I think the film doesn't really do enough, in my opinion, to explain the actual effects of the beach because you kind of, yeah, a lot of the times the kids who who begin the film, I can't remember their names. I think it's like, is it like Trent and something else? I
And
think,
Maddox.
and Maddox. They start off and they're like their mental capacity doesn't really change, so like they're adults but they're still kids. But then by the end of the film, you kind of get the idea that they are adults now, which I was kind of confused as well. Whether they were explaining that, yeah, your mental capacity also changes, your thoughts change, because I suppose that what the pregnancy scene is actually an indicative of that, when they kind of sort of share a moment when they kind of think, yeah, I have these urges now, you know what I mean? It's a bit weird, and that was maybe where I think he was
Yeah.
trying to get a bit of a humorous reaction. Do you think so?
Yeah, I was very worried because there's a moment where the character, medium-sized sedan, I believe his name is,
Well, that
sort of
was
like
fantastic.
puts his hand on Maddox's shoulder, and I was like, please don't play this out.
Don't
She
do
was
it,
she was a
Sedan.
child like 40 minutes ago, and
Yeah.
thankfully they didn't, because like that would have actually just uh that would have been fucked. So I'm really glad they didn't go for that. But yeah, I think it was just to create shock value. But you mentioned the kids growing up, and like this is a weird praise to give it, but genuinely one of the best aged up castings I've ever seen
Yeah, they are
is Eamon
fantastic. Yeah,
Elliott,
very
cast
good.
as older Nat Wolff, because like it was so accurate that I like questioned whether they had like CGI aged him up.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was really, really well done. And I think, well, credit to the actors as well, because I think the actors make the characters feel reasonably consistent as well throughout each generation. And obviously the film is, pretty much told from the family's perspective, really. They're the focal point of the film. But I actually think some of the side characters were very interesting. It's just I wish I saw more of them. Because, as I said, I did feel like most of the entertaining characters, like medium-sized sedan and stuff, were killed off a bit too soon for me.
Yeah, Shyamalan does this thing in almost all of his films where it's essentially like the youth prevail. Uh, you know, it's usually the youngest characters within the film. Teenagers or early 20s. Usually there's some horrific occurrence that everybody is sort of drawn into, and then the kids are somehow the ones that make it out.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was fun to see that, but then subverted by the fact that they were the youth, but they were now in their mid 50s. That would just be a horrible life to lead, wouldn't it? That you're like that the
It
mind
would.
of a child, but the,
Yeah.
the body of a 50 something.
Yeah, it's kind of like the sort of alternate sort of Benjamin Button dynamic, really, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I think that movie, is actually an apt comparison here because they kind of deal with those similar themes. It's just for this film. I think the fact that it doesn't really have that classic three-part structure of beginning, middle, end. It just feels like you're on there on the beach, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And for the most part, I think once you get on the beach, you never leave it, if I'm correct. From the viewer's perspective, you're always there, which I find very interesting. There's no flashbacks, or there's no scenes that cut to anyone else's perspective outside the beach. So I think it really builds that claustrophobia there. And it feels like a very menacing environment. And I'd imagine that, those cliff faces are all CGI for the most part, or mostly anyway. So I think they did a great job of building that environment. It's just, for me, I could have easily watched another, hour of this to see how it would have unfolded, because, as I kind of was saying, I wasn't really satisfied with the ending. I felt it was wrapped up too nicely for
Mm.
me.
Did you hear some of the hot water that John Barrowman was in off the back of this?
No, mate, please tell. As in, like, Captain Jack, John Barrowman.
Yeah, he had tweeted like he had added like he sent the tweet to M. Night Shyamalan. Like he named him in the tweet, which is like not something you do. Like if we were like promoting our review of something, like if you were saying like, yo, whoever made Men in Black International, your movie was shit. Like
At Chris
you don't do that.
Hemsworth. Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
so he had added M. Night Shyamalan, and then he was like, "What is this colossal piece of?" I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But he was like, "What was this like colossal piece of shit? We are so angry at like having to sit through like the 2 hours of boredom of whatever this piece of shit was." And then he says that like it was so poor we got a refund. And I'm like, what are you
Does
talking
that
about?
work?
Like how can you be like, I didn't enjoy the film, give me my money back?
I
Like
wish that's how it would work.
how entitled are you? Like, is it
Yeah,
just because they went, oh, it's John Barrowman, like let's not cause a scene? I presume so, because I
that's
mean,
crazy.
like, how in the hell, like, how are you getting your money back by saying you did not enjoy the quality of the film?
That's interesting, because, like, he had sort of said that it was boring, but that's the last thing I was ever feeling with this film. I was maybe a bit disappointed with how
Mm.
it wrapped up, but I was thoroughly captivated throughout. And that's credit to the characters, the actors, but also sort of the world that Shyamalan's able to build in such a short space of time. I was really
It's like,
thinking,
have you ever seen a bad film and been like, I wish I hadn't seen that? Like, I always enjoy seeing bad films.
yeah, like, the worst thing I think you can feel with a film is just nothingness. Like, I'd rather feel bad about something than just absolutely just empty inside. You know what I mean? So I
Mm.
can't believe I'm a little bit shocked at John Barrowman. I expected him to be a bit better. I expected better from that, to be honest. I don't really like
Mm.
that behavior. Um,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
like, if I come out of something and go, that was a colossal piece of shit, like, either it was, so bad it's good, or, it was at least funny, or
yeah,
now I have a story,
yeah,
but none of that, even if it's a piece of shit and I never want to talk about it again, it was so bad. Like, on
yeah.
what earth do you say, give me
It's
my money
bizarre,
back? It's like,
bizarre.
it's really not to the discretion of the cinema. They do not owe you your money back for you choosing to have seen that film.
Yeah, and if that was the case, I suppose the cinema industry would be in big trouble.
Yeah, because I mean, you could just, give me money back
Give me my
at
money
every
back. Yeah,
film.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
In the end, I very much liked what I watched. I got to the end of it, and I sort of said to you, I mean, did I like that or did I hate that? I'm still conflicted, but I think a film that's like so absurd whilst being so earnest, taking itself so seriously, like that's always funny. And I think if you find something funny, whether it's intentional or not, you're having a good time.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. And with that, I was thoroughly captivated throughout. I can never really find a moment where I thought that was dull, or you're wasting time here. I do think this film will do well at the box office, even if maybe critically not so much. And that's the thing about Shyamalan's films; like, they always get you talking, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly not the best movie of the year or anything like that, but I think, as an form of entertainment, I was thoroughly captivated. So I
Hmm.
was.
What is your movie of the year?
My movie of the year is The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, closely
Okay.
followed probably by, I would say, The Suicide Squad's got to be up there. If
Hmm.
anyone on the channel um doesn't know, we went to see Suicide Squad a few days ago, and the review will probably be up, next week or something, or late this week, whenever we get a chance to do it. And yeah, I think Suicide Squad, I'm not sure if the movie Soul was this year or not, but I really
Just
enjoyed
December last year.
December. Okay, but I would say probably The Map of Tiny Perfect Things or Suicide Squad is up there for me. What's yours so far?
Yeah, I was thinking sort of solely on a cinema basis because like for some reason I was just like, yeah, that's the first thing this year. Yeah, definitely cinema wise, Suicide Squad. Absolutely, I
Yeah,
think.
mhm.
I've managed to see 8 films in as many weeks, which is
It's
a lot
impressive.
more than I have in
Impressive, mate.
previous years. So I'm quite happy with that. Uh, yeah, I think Map of the Tiny Perfect Things was a really special film, and that was a great one of this year.
Yeah,
I felt like I'm sure we'll do like a best and worst of the year or
I think
something
so. I think
at the end
so.
of the year.
Definitely, mate. Well, do you have any more points in the movie, buddy?
Nothing else for me. I think this would be a difficult one to give a number to because I don't even
I
know
agree.
whether
I don't
I
know
hated it or
myself.
liked it.
Yeah.
So are we just gonna go massive hit or piece of shit?
I think it's hard to do that as well, but I think it's easier to do that than a number, to be honest with you. A number, I
Yeah.
just wouldn't really have a clue. I would say overall, although I'll say overall it's a massive hit, but comparing it to other movies that we've given a massive hit, I would say this is probably on the lower end, just for the fact that
Mm,
I've never felt really this confused about a movie in quite some time in terms of how I feel about it. Not necessarily the plot,
yeah.
but just how I feel. I think it might be a movie on rewatch where we come back to later on in a Shyamalan podcast or tier list and sort of think to
Mm,
ourselves, oh, we should have rated it differently or whatever. But I would say
yeah.
it's a massive hit, me. I was thoroughly entertained throughout, and I think although the ending didn't live up to the plot that came before it, I still think this is a really entertaining film that it's for multiple audiences as well. I think you can go and see this with, as a family film or maybe not a family
Hmm.
film, but like you can go to see it with your mates or on your own or on a date or something. It's entertaining. So I would give it a massive hit. What would you give it?
Yeah, I'm conflicted because I don't think we've ever seen a film in the cinema where we're like, oh well, that was a bad film, but we had a good time with it. Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
see that
yeah.
a lot with the movies we watch at home, but I think in the cinema that's sort of a rare thing for us.
Certainly.
I guess probably Dora and the Lost City of Gold is. Do you think Dora and the Lost City of Gold is a good movie? I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it.
I'd be scared to rewatch it in case it didn't hit the same, you know?
I know. I'm sure it's bad, but like, we loved it, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm kind of conflicted here because I'm like, I just always want to like Shyamalan stuff, because I think he has such huge potential, which is evidenced by half of his filmography.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
if you've made one of the best films of all time, you kind of get a pass for the rest of your career.
Certainly.
So I always want him to live up to his prior success. So I'm a big supporter of his, and I'm hoping whatever he makes next is great. This is a movie I enjoyed, had a good time with, had a laugh, but I can see the faults quite easily. But I would have to give it a massive hit.
Yeah, I really like Shyamalan. I haven't seen a lot of his films, but every one feels unique, but also like there's a clear creative vision there. So
Mm.
I'll always be sure to see his films in future whenever they come out because I think he's very talented ideas guy, as you said, rightly so. Um,
And they're all self-funded these days.
well, there you go. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah, he clearly has a passion for the industry, for sure. But yeah, thank you very much for today for your time, mate. Appreciate it, and thank
Thank
you
you.
very much to you viewers for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on the movie Old down below. We'll always be there to read them and react to them. And if you want to email us, our email and our iTunes link as well, if you want to watch us there, all that jazz is in the description as always for you guys. So yeah, hope you guys are all well. Hope your family and friends are keeping well too. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye bye.